Howdy, Ags. We're going to do a little audio check and then we'll get started. Well, there we go. A little special midday Friday edition live stream. It's taken a while to get used to doing this again. It's been a long time, and all my enthusiasm to get this going, I forgot to eat. So I picked something quiet, olives, out of my respect for my audience. So here's the deal. We're going to look at photos from last shift and dress log stack from the night before, the last two stack shifts of Bonfire 2024. A bit of a warm up for burn tomorrow, January 25th. I'll level with you. It's taken me this long to look at these photos because and you might know if you follow, my camera on the night of last shift fell and it broke badly. I mean, I knew it was broken, but I didn't know how bad the optics were until I got home from that shift. I mean, I thought I was limping along. I thought everything was going okay. And then I got home from that shift and pulled the photos up. Always look forward to pulling up these the last shift photo. It was just crushed. It was not good. So found one finally good enough that we could do the last shift shirts with. Feeling awful. I gave the best versions of the photos that I could find to be downloaded high resolution for free. Print them yourself. And sent the camera off to be repaired, and I just could not bring myself to do a Cull and good bull of these photos, knowing what was at the end of them. Until now, the camera is back. It's fixed. The optics look like they're all squared away. Everything feels good, looks good. So now, I'm past that, and I know that we're not going to have this problem again, knock on wood. And now I can look at these photos and not feel so bad about how awful they look right now. We're also going to be learning together. I have the feeling that the only photos that were really, really bad were the ones where I zoomed out all the way. We might discover that all of them are bad today. We'll see. But going forward, burn night tomorrow, everything's going to be great. It's going to be outstanding. Camera's back, which means I can set up the other rig that I have to do a long exposure and try that again. That's always fun to try. And then, yeah, that's it. What was the other thing? Oh yeah. Thank you so much to everybody who contributed to and donated to getting that camera fixed. It was not cheap. And, I just kind of shared that, hey, this is awful. And, other people said, hey, you should set up a GoFundMe or something. So I, put it up on PayPal, made a little PayPal campaign, and everybody helped solve that problem. And so I'm deeply grateful to everybody for that. Means a lot. And I am going to make it worth everybody's while and take hopefully some outstanding photos tomorrow, January 25th, burn 2024. All right. So killed enough time to give enough time for enough people to figure out that we're doing this in the middle of the day, let's go ahead and get started. Any questions? I'll try and watch the chat. I'm not great at keeping up with it, but I'll try. I'll do my level best. We'll go ahead and get started with dress log stack of 2024, and then moving immediately into last shift. Now, this log here, this is a dress log for Julius. One of the last year's crew chiefs from a pelt, who sadly passed away, and so he got a log with his name carved in the side of it. And every crew gets a dress log, and you carve the name of your crew into the dress log, and turn it inside, with the idea being that the only people who know where that log is the crew that did that work together. And then you internalize that, and you internalize your achievement. It's not a trophy. It's not, something for everybody else to see. The exception to that is when you've got a crew that is known to be in its last season, maybe a dorm's getting torn down or an outfit disbanded or something, or if somebody passes away, somebody active in Bonfire, or a significant figure in Bonfire's history, among leadership. So Dwight had a log a couple years ago. Dwight was a great friend of Bonfire who helped for decades. We'll see. There was one actually won't be in these photos, but we'll see when we look at the burn night photos in a week or two. There's another log on there for shortly. When they put the brown pot log up, they put Brandon Brute Talbot on that log. He passed away in May. He was a brown pot from right after my era. He was a participant when I was leading. So in any event, we've got, that's one of the first dress logs to be headed for the for stack there. At this point, you see the superset cables. For those of you that don't know, I know most of you do, but for those of you that don't know, as stack works its way out, either every 3 feet of radius or between every tier, you run these superset cables. Well, now they're down to the 5th tier here. This is the last tier. They've got some logs up already, and there's your superset cables. And those are, you've got wires, you see the wires, and then you've got these sturdier cables that are wrapped many times, 3 times, 2.5, 3 times, giving it that it's basically a belt at the top and bottom, on top of all of the wires, every log wired to 3 other logs at the top and bottom. It just happened to work out this year, probably a function of work schedule, and because surprise, I don't know if y'all know this, but I do actually have a quote unquote real job, so that's a thing that exists. Also, growing an active family, I don't know what it is. All I'm trying to say is no excuses. All I'm trying to say is it takes some pretty big priorities to, I want to give Bonfire everything I can. And I'm not missing time at Bonfire to twiddle my thumbs, is what I'm saying. I'm apologizing for not having many sunset photos this year. Sunset golden hour photos. I realized that towards the end that holy moly, I've been missing that time. It's okay. It's okay. But it's a beautiful stack. And so I was really glad to be able to get out there a little bit early. You know, got the staging going on. Here's Hart rolling their log in. This which direction this would be? This is roughly north-ish. So if you're familiar with the stack site layout, this is farther up Old Hearn Road, not out towards the pond. So you see all of the dress logs out there staged. And right now, what's happening here is digging sort of, not a pit, but it's you dig a small divot where the log is going to go. And basically that gives sort of a pocket for the log to fall into when it's slammed to the stack. Pardon me, while this is going on, while we're doing this, the night before burn, getting messages elsewhere as well. So busy time. Back here, we talked about this when this first arrived. This is the 12 Fires. Always forget, they have a Chicken Little, they have a Chicken Nugget. This is 12 Fires Winery, who are sponsoring the live stream that Texags does. So Texags provides the live stream free on burn night, but it does cost a fair bit of money to do that, and it's not a it's a break-even prospect for Texags, and I'm so grateful to them, and I know Aggies everywhere are grateful to them for providing that for everybody. So a sponsor covers the costs of the live stream, and couldn't do it without them. So when we're watching the live stream tomorrow this year, know that is a generous gift of the great Aggies at 12 Fires Winery. Sponsors of the gallery back in 2019, I believe. Now, it is important to note at this juncture, if it wasn't obvious, 12 Fires Winery makes and sells wine. So I don't know if that was obvious. But that trailer that they brought out there, that is merely a backdrop of burn that gets them some visibility at burn. There is no alcohol inside that thing. They were generous enough to leave keys to it so that while the red pots and green pots and brown pots were having to watch stack ever since it was completed all the way through until they're going to be spending the night again tonight. They could sleep in there, have a nice, warm, comfortable place. But it is completely empty of any alcohol because there is no alcohol at Bonfire. It has been that way since my time. Strict no alcohol policy, and I appreciate 12 Fires bringing that beautiful little lodging out there and bringing it out there completely dry. And they didn't have to do that. We knew that the delay was coming. but they did it anyway and gave those boys a place to stay until it was time to burn. So grateful for that and grateful for them making the live stream of burn possible. So here's the first dress log going up. There's Julius's log, again turned out so that everybody can see, recognize. Here's a pelt bringing theirs in. Meanwhile, we saw Hart was digging the divot, the pit. Not a pit; it's a small little divot. They were digging the divot for the log to go in. So while a pelt is bringing theirs in, Hart is getting ready to slam theirs. Yellow Pot calling it. There's a sort of a ceremonial almost aspect to the dress logs being slammed. I mean, it's legitimate work. These are big logs. They weigh a lot. So you're actually doing a thing. It's not purely ceremonial, but there's just an element to it that's there's a certain sort of gravity to it that, you know, this is the last one that we're going to do. This is the last log that our crew had something to do with getting it on Bonfire. And I don't know, there's something to it. And when you're scheduling last shift and dress logs and all that, part of the calculus as a leader that you have to account for is you have to account for the fact that Aggies are really going to milk these last moments that they have together as a crew at Stack. So this process takes a lot longer than other logs. Now, it takes a lot longer too because these are much bigger logs and more precision is required, more discipline, more focus. There is some stop-start to it at times when you're trying to get out all the things lined up. You think everything's lined up. You run through your check sheet one more time, and then nope. So there is a legitimate cause for the stop-start that goes with slamming the dress logs, but also there's an aspect of, man, just milk it, just really enjoy it. This is it. Again, like I say, it's a Friday before burn. Apologize for the interruptions every now and then. I'm getting messages and stuff. I gotta tend to. All right, back at it. Let me stop and check the okay, cool. This is how bad I am at checking messages. All right, so here we go. Neely bringing their log in. So we see it. We still see the familiar characters from a pelt. Wait a minute. We just saw them slam a log. Well, Julius was from a pelt. A pelt was slamming Julius's log. And now this is a pelt slamming their crew log. All right, let me 1 second. I want to bring the exposure back up on this one a little bit. There we go. All right. We got that thing working. Now note the firmness of the ground there. Still dry at this point. And keep in mind too, it is really important to note that while this is happening, right? These people out here, these Aggies out here working, finishing off this job. They all know at this point. It's already been announced. There's no negotiating it. There's no nothing. This they know that what they're doing here, people aren't going to get to see it burn for a couple months. It's dry. It's well within the burn ban threshold. It's not going to burn on time, and they know it. And they're still out here doing the work. Now, something that you'll see with these dress logs that you don't see often, if ever, otherwise. This is OC's dress log that has been brought up to the stack, and you'll see them using using the ram on a log that has been stacked, and you use the ram to move the base of it in or out after the log is vertical up against the stack. But for these big dress logs, they'll actually use the ram before the log is stacked to get it up closer to the stack, because they're so heavy, and you really do have to. There's a little bit of luck involved rolling in a huge log and then turning it, and then hoping that you have it in the right position. You're probably not going to get it in the right position on the first time. I mean, some of these weigh more than cars. And so, and especially once you get it up really close to the stack, and especially as more logs are building up around the base of the stack, you can't get all of your people on them. So then you start using the rams to nudge the logs around. So there's OC's going up. Nope, that's Neely's. That's Neely's. We saw OC staging. This is Neely putting theirs up. What do we got going here? OC again. OC gets 2 dress logs. Little photoception. There's a pelt wiring in there, dress log. Here's another one about to go up. Is this Kruger's? I believe this is Kruger's going up. Yeah, Kruger. And you see Lechner here on the back. So these logs will be big enough that they can call for people from other crews. OC likes having their photos did. Leggett. So they're rolling theirs into position. And let's see which one they're putting up here. That Kruger again. Might be looking at this is part of why I like to do these. Generally like to do these a little bit closer when I take the photos, because I got to piece back together what was going on. I believe this is one of those reset moments. Kruger gets ready to go and then figures out they need a little bit more going. Now they're getting that log up. Pelt. Crew photo with Julius's log. That's tough. It is tough. You know, I lost one of my buddies before we even got to Stack in 2003, and of course I've talked about that a lot, Levi. But I've been in that position before, and it's tough. But there's something about it that you know, when you get like Julius's log up there, when we got Levi's log up, there's just something that sort of an assurance, a reminder that you know, Julius was a chief last year, and now here's this year's chiefs. They're here representing and doing the work and representing their crew and everything. They're here because, you know, Julius led and passed down that leadership to them. And they are in turn going to pass it to somebody else. And generations from now, you know, Bonfire will still be there, and it will be a product of having been passed down and inherited and taken care of and led and passed on to somebody else. And so there's this, you know, in a tough time, there's this this reassurance and this comfort that is uncommon and amazing, that, you know, as hard as it is to not have that person with you, you know that the thing that you came to know that person with is still there, and it's not going anywhere. And so your work is now their legacy. And then when you hand that off to somebody else, that legacy remains intact. I don't know if I'm explaining that well. I don't know if I'd ever be able to explain that well. But there's this certainty and this sense of permanence that comes with Bonfire that reminds you that you know, the thing, the work, the institution, the feelings, the spirit, those are all a gift, and those are a gift from people who came before to you, and it is your privilege and pleasure to enjoy that gift and then it is your responsibility to convey that gift to the next. And so the gift remains intact. And when the gift remains intact, the spirit and the memory and the importance and the acts of the people who came before remain intact. And there are people who spend their entire life trying to find a thing that will grace them with that opportunity to do something important and then to leave a mark that will be treasured and cherished and passed down to somebody else, so that mark never goes away. You know, there are grown-ass people who've gone their whole lives and not found that thing. And here you have Aggies still in college who have that thing. That's an extraordinary gift. This is one of the core dress logs. The core gets 2 dress logs. And that goes back to it is true that every outfit used to have a dress log, but then some years ago, the outfits were all sort of in the Bonfire work. The outfits were consolidated into NSW and CLH, 2 sort of core super crews with their own butt pots, and each outfit still has their own butt pot. But then there's these 2 superseding core structures. And so each one of those gets a dress log. And one day, you know, for all you old Army who remembers and cherishes having your own outfit dress log, one day that may very well happen again. When we can get to a point where reliably, consistently, entire outfits are participating. There are more outfits than ever participating. But, and it's similar to the non-regs. There's the challenge of the fish participate in great numbers and then sort of drops off after that. That's one thing I hear from leaders and participants in the Corps. The Corps learns from the non-regs learn from the Corps. It's a great thing to watch. And one of the things that you'll hear is, there's aspects of how the Corps conducts their business that informs the non-regs. And one of the things that I hear from some of the Corps is that, man, they don't leave. The non-regs, all the way through their upperclassmen year, you'll find them, and that's a cool little phenomenon within the non-regs. It's certainly, not to say that universally when you're an upperclassman in the Corps, you don't. There's a lot of upperclassmen that participate, but the drop off from fish to moving through upperclassmen, it's greater in the Corps, and that's just it's a thing. This is a cat they call Dion Jr. and Lechner because he also takes photos, and very good ones at that. And I don't know if they knew this at the time when they came up with Dion Jr., but obviously German. I am also German. My German is much rustier than it used to be, but I am a German speaker, so I don't know if they knew and put all that together. But they call him Dion Jr. because he takes pictures. And then we found out that we have more in common. Before first cut, I met him in cut class, and one of his upperclassmen introduced him to me and asked, or he said, "I know you have assistants out there, and maybe he could be your assistant." And I told him I don't actually have assistants. My oldest, she has come out and photographed, and we saw some of what she did this year. But my message at the time was, I welcome you out, and I hope you do take pictures. But if you really want to get good at taking pictures of Bonfire, the best and most important thing that you should do is just build the hell out of it. Throw yourself in it. Every opportunity, everything, every job, every moment. Get in it. Figure out why it's happening. Figure out how it's happening. Participate in how it's happening. Learn something. Pay attention to what's going on when it's happening. And then the next time you come out with your camera after you've spent a season really embracing it, then you're going to know the moments that are about to happen, and you'll be able to take the photos, and those photos will be important and significant to people because of your investment in building the hell out of Bonfire. Those are my 2 cents. I'm not saying that's the way you got to do it. No, that's the way you got to do it. But you can choose not to. He built the hell out of Bonfire, and he takes excellent photos of Bonfire. And they're different, which is good. That's ideal. Now, we've talked about it before. There was another student had started to take photos not too long ago, some years ago. And sometimes, on occasion, we would be in the same spot, looking in the same direction, taking a photo of the same thing happening. And, at some point, somebody they were being observant, non-judgy. They just said, here's CLH, here's that second core log. They said, Dion, almost as if they hadn't really noticed it before. They said, Dion, in all your photos, everybody looks like mad or in some sort of discomfort or something. And I knew what they were saying was, compared to the other photos that they were now seeing, this other perspective of one of their peers. This is everybody singing the war hymn. It came on over the speakers. But compared to these other photos that they were now seeing, this other perspective, in her photos, people were smiling and laughing, and there was just unfettered joy. And that absolutely exists, and it's commonplace. It's all over the place. And they were just sort of noticing that, like, your photos, it's all the work and it's all the suffering. There's a lot of a different mood, and it's true. And we were both looking at the same thing in the same moment, pointing at the same people. And it was really interesting and sort of surprising how 2 different people could see and then capture two completely different things that were true and that existed and that were absolutely there and accurate and representing the situation, but were completely different. So it's good to have other perspectives and other eyes out there. In the same way, two people can experience the same story at the same moment, and then when you ask them to tell the story of what they just did, or years later tell the story, you'll get two completely different versions of the story, both true, but different. So there's Walton putting theirs up. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I was looking at here. So I was engrossed in what I was looking at, and I forgot to mention. So the other crews roll their logs in, but it is a privilege that Walton earns, and is considered very carefully. But if Walton produces the numbers of participants for the year, loads the trucks capably, and brings enough people to dress logs, then Walton is given the opportunity to carry their dress log in the perimeter up to the stack. And it is an accomplishment. It is a thing to watch. And it does pucker you up a little bit. There's a bit of a pucker factor with it. Absolutely. No doubt about it. As many times as I've seen it, still a little bit of a pucker factor. And as we talked about with other photos, sometimes I just can't take the photo because I am paying attention and I am dialed in, and, I'm taking a personal interest in that moment. And I'm not even thinking about taking photos. Some people would argue that makes me a bad photographer, but this year I did get photos of them bringing it in. And the reason why they can do that, there's a practical, reasonable reason why that is something that is done. Every log that gets out to stack passes through load site and has to be picked up and put on the truck. So, Walton is a crew that begins the year, except for the upperclassmen, the fish, which are always going to be the bulk of your participation, begins the year on the same level as everybody else. You mean to tell me I'm going to pick up that tree and I'm going to carry it on my back? And then, from day one, Walton's got the other thing, which is I'm going to pick it up on my back and I'm going to carry it over there and I'm going to throw it. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of no way that's possible. And then the first time you do it feels very, very hard. And it is hard, but the first time you do it feels almost impossible. And then you do it and you realize, oh, it can be done. And now things are different. So now you have the ability to, on the next one, is exponentially easier because you've gotten over the mental hurdle that everything that you understood about leverage and physics and mass and everything is telling you can't do this. You did it. Well, now those barriers are out of the way, and now it's purely a physical undertaking. And every time you approach something that's bigger than one that you've done before, that barrier comes back a little bit, and then you overcome it. And over time, yeah, you're actually physically building strength, but you're also building a certain mental resilience and resolve. In the woods or at load site, wherever you're doing your job, you're building this new understanding of your limits and your capacity to overcome those limits. So the other crews, their limits are found in the arena of swinging an axe and moving the logs and clearing brush and hauling and pulling things and all of that. They're finding limits there. Well, Walton is finding and testing and breaking through limits over and over and over and over again on nothing else but picking up logs and carrying them. So it's not random, and it's not unreasonable. In fact, it's very well considered that the crew who has dedicated themselves to nothing but lifting and carrying things can earn the opportunity to lift and carry and move their dress log. It can be some, if you've never seen somebody move their dress log like that before, you're gonna hit that mental barrier yourself. Go, what in the world is happening? But there's a reason behind it, and there's control. So here we are on the fateful, unfortunate day. As far as I'm concerned, great day for Bonfire. Shitty day for me. This is the day I dropped the camera. This is last shift. So here, let me show you the first photos that were taken. The camera dropped before I took a single photo that day. So here's the first 5 photos from last shift. The shutter's wrecked. I was able to get the shutter to work. And I'm just desperately pushing buttons trying to get something to show up on the, and finally something does. The white balance is still set for the night before because I haven't set the white balance yet because I'm freaking out right now. Completely freaking out. And again, I'm not even really taking pictures of anything right now. I'm not trying to compose a photo. I'm trying to get the camera to friggin' work. Trying to figure out how exactly it's broken. Because at this point, the lens is loose on the camera. And I'm having a hard time getting it to focus, and I can't figure out why. I wasn't able to figure that out until when I got back home. But what was happening was see here, this doesn't look bad. I mean, it's grainy because it's starting to get into low light. But, I mean, the photo works. And so it was looking at the back of, okay, after I got the shutter working again, it was looking at the back of the camera. Here I was thinking, oh, okay, I can get through the night. Everything's fine. I can get through the night. Finally get the white balance set correctly. Because I've finally settled down a little bit, calmed myself. And I'm thinking, hey, everything's fine. Well, what I hadn't realized, and I don't know if you can tell this, but there's in the middle of the frame, it's dark. The color is off here. And what I figured out by the end of the night, or when I got home and looked at the last shift photos, when I was fully wide, so fully zoomed out, I lost the autofocus. And now, unfortunately, the last shift photo is fully zoomed out. You'll see what, if you look close at the preview image for this, you'll see it. So, but again, I looked at those photos that I took after I got the shutter working again and thought, oh, okay, I'll be fine. The photos are working. I didn't realize how bad things were in the fully zoomed out. And I still struggled with the autofocus. there's a trick, and I mean, hell, it's probably real photographers probably don't even, um, uh, real photographers probably don't even consider it a trick, but it was the first thing that I learned that was presented to me as a trick, and I did it and went, "Oh, I'm kind of magic." Um, where you set your autofocus on spot mode, and you set it so that when you lock in, you can move the camera, and it still keeps the focus locked in to where you set it before you move the camera, right? So you don't want to do like a sport or action mode where you move the camera and it's going to change the focus. So you can get it to focus on something, then move the camera to frame the photo right, but keep it focused. And that's really important when you're doing something like, well, like, well, let's see. These are going to be hard to show you what I'm talking about because I had such a hard time with the focus. But if you've got where the thing that you want to be in focus is off to the left or to the right, or it's in some extreme, you put it in spot, you get the focus on that thing, you put it in the middle, whatever you got to do, get it focused, and then you move the camera to move the thing that you wanted in focus to the left or to the right or wherever, and then you take the picture. I was doing that all night long. Usually that's something that I'll do just to put things in focus and into some extreme of the frame, where it's hard to get the autofocus to register. All of the focusing was hard to register. So the whole night I'm taking pictures and my camera's just moving around like crazy while it's up to my face. Anything I can to get it to focus and then frame it and then take the picture. Like I said, this night sucked so bad. And the whole time I'm like sick to my stomach because it doesn't feel good knowing that I'm having this much trouble with my equipment. And again, not realizing the severe issue that we're going to end up having when we take the last shift photo. Now, this was a solid and greatly appreciated move by the Red Pots this year. They're about to do turbo stack. And so this is the senior Red Pots getting everybody up to speed on how turbo stack will be conducted. Protocols, expectations, the whole 9 yards. And anybody who's built Bonfire, you know the cyclical nature of Bonfire. Yes, it's always moving forward, true. Always progressing, always better in some respect. But there's also this thing that happens where you do a reset on something. You know, one of the things that is very cyclical is the size of the dress logs. So you do a reset of the dress logs back to a smaller, more manageable size for both cutting them and stacking them. And when you do that reset, you reset way back. And then as it starts to, year after year after year, the size of the dress logs gets a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then you get to the point where you go, man, these dress logs are big. And then you do a reset. Well, the same thing sort of happens with turbo stack. It's something else that almost has its own little internal clock. Where turbo stack is where, and this started as a function of necessity due to the schedule uh, many years ago. And it was such a motivating experience and so memorable. There we go. There's Brute Slug. We talked about that. There's Brute. Brandon Talbot. But it's so memorable and so unique that they said, you know what, this is actually a sustainable practice that we can do every year. Turbo stack. And then this is where you see, you know, the return of the scarecrows. Their job is to signal when there's a part of the stack that is ready for another log to go up. And there's just people all around bringing in the high ports. High ports are logs that two people can carry. Useful as filler or truck sticks or what have you. And so, you know, the decision was made years ago, it was a few years after me, that, hey, this is something sustainable. We can repeat this. We can embrace this thing that we had to do. We can make it a functional part of what we're doing. We can treat it in a way that makes it useful to the operations. You know, you get to the point where you're at your final logs. There's no supersets going on the outside of these logs. There's no logs that are tying into these logs. This is the stuff that you're filling in around the dress logs with. So let's embrace it and let's make this a part. But it has, like I said, it's got its own little cycle, its own little clock where the fun and the intensity and the feverish pace of the thing gets, you know, maybe a little bit too feverish is the word I'm looking for. And so when it gets to that point, then you go, okay, reset, hard reset. Let's go back. And the seniors performed that reset this year. And this was the most streamlined, efficient, effective turbo stack I have ever seen. It was a wonder to behold. And it's one of those things that, you know, when your bonfire, you build it, you know it. It's easy to believe that with so many things that are in common in the same, it's easy to believe that if you talk about something that you did, you know, it's easy to assume that, okay, when I start talking about this, everybody's going to know what I'm talking about. And I mean, hell, I've had the experience where, you know, talking with old red pots from way back, talking about, yeah, so they're doing turbo stack tomorrow, and then having them go, what the hell are you talking about? And you forget, oh yeah, this is not, you didn't do this, we didn't do this. You know, I forget that this is something that is new and different to today. But again, nothing's ever new and different just because. You think, you extrapolate out, if the organization and if the leadership had the notion that it was okay to just do stuff new and different just because, extrapolate that out over the 22 years that it has been, and imagine what this thing would look like if that was an okay thing to do. Let's just make something new and different just because. It is shockingly consistent, because any new change has to be justifiable. It has to serve the purpose. It has to answer the question, does this build Bonfire? So when you do see changes, they are in keeping with the very spirit of the thing, which is this isn't about you. This isn't about, you know, mine is bigger, mine is better, mine is faster, mine is whatever than yours. Every year, did everything we do build Bonfire. So that's where you get the consistency, even amidst so much change. This is another, like, this was another example. I'm starting to figure things out. Okay, I can get this camera to work. All right, we can make it through. And just taking this photo, I could not get the freaking focus right. And then by the time I got the focus right, I cut off feet. So B2. Now, part of what's happening while you're bringing in these logs, you've also got logs going out. So this is not, this whole process, this whole thing. I'm not saying anybody should do this, but I'm just saying it's interesting to imagine a hypothetical where you could take everybody at the beginning of stack. It's not even possible because at the beginning of stack, you're stacking those big, tall 32-foot logs in the center. So you couldn't even do this anyway. But it's interesting to imagine, what if you could have everybody try and do turbo stack somehow on the first, in the first shifts in the first week. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work at all. It wouldn't be useful. It just wouldn't work. So when this is happening, it's sort of, especially as an observer, just being able to sit back and watch. It's a marvel to me, and it's very impressive to me, because I know that with all these logs coming in and logs going out and signals and people paying attention to things, and it's easy to wonder, what are you paying attention to and how are you paying attention to it? How do you know that you have to go over here right now and you've got to go in at this direction? You got to bring that thing over here. It's about, and they're doing it like they've always done it. Like they were born doing it. It speaks a lot to the discipline and process that is built up in all of the participants to be able to navigate turbo stack effectively, efficiently. It's a really cool thing to just sit and watch. Every now and then somebody will try and bring in something that's not a log, like a person. You'll see this towards the tail end of turbo stack. Now we're getting towards, stack in its completed form. The shot of Brute's log. And at this point, I believe, I'm starting to figure out where and how I'm going to take the photo. And now we're starting to see. So I got up in the boom. And thanks for everybody's patience in me getting the boom all figured out. I'm not like everybody else who's driving the boom all the time and who just knows how to do it. So if I were smart, I would probably do that more, just so that I had it figured out. But I didn't. So I'm back where the boom is. And look, you can see here. This is perfectly in focus. This is correct. And then it immediately falls off into just mess. And we weren't seeing that on like shots like this because I'm not zoomed out all the way. And it was when I was zoomed out all the way that the autofocus, not only did the autofocus not work, but that's where you got the lens elements out of alignment, making a total mess of the situation. So I'd managed to limp along just fine. And still here, I'm having problems here. Look at beautiful. This here is not a depth of field issue. This is just, look at the fall off from here to here. I'm having issues. And again, I'm starting to get really friggin' nervous at this point. Because I've got to get the photo done. But when I get up close and when I don't have to zoom out, everything appears okay-ish. Same deal. Perfect. A mess. And these are all on the same, this is all the same plane. It's not like this is closer or farther away and whatever. This is all the same depth of field. And so that tells you you've got a lens problem. But again, when I just looked at it on the back of the camera, this isn't obvious when it's only this big. So, woof. Like I said, the reason why it took so long to get to this point where we're doing the photos now is because the camera is now fixed. So I can look at this knowing that like this situation is not the current situation anymore. This one is not too bad, but again, I'm not zoomed out all the way. And so, because, I know that I'm having a hard time getting autofocus, I'm not realizing that the reason why I'm having a hard time getting the autofocus and getting it to lock in while I'm autofocusing, I'm not realizing that's because the camera is recognizing that, hey, some of this is in focus, but some of it's not. So what I figure I have to do to get this photo is I'm thinking, okay, there's just something wrong with the autofocus. I'm looking at it on the back. It looks fine. So there's just something wrong with the autofocus. I'll just take a boatload of photos in manual focus and then go through, hundreds of photos to pick out the ones that are right. Not realizing that none of them would be. All of which to say, there's like 300 photos of the same thing at this point. While I'm counting out 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I'm sitting there in manual focus. And so that's why you see the camera, you see all the camera is moving while I'm taking these photos because they think I'm counting to 3 and taking a photo. And I'm just holding the hammer down on the shutter and going, just throwing that focus ring left and right and all around. Just textbook spray and pray. But we ultimately, let's get to the ones that because I did had to review these for the last shift photo. So see, these are some of the ones that were the least atrocious, could work and did work for the shirts. But at least we're representing. Hell, there's a whole hell of a lot of Aggies out here. Got up in the boom. Same issue. This is when somebody was asking me, so what exactly, how do you know the lens is broken? How do you know it's quote unquote awful? I told him, just go look up tilt shift photography. Just Google tilt shift photography. That's what this looks like. Tilt shift photography. Focus falls right off. Gross. But I'm so pleased. Yeah, I had to eat a big turd sandwich on these photos, but I'm glad that it wasn't, that I was able to get some semblance of functionality when I was in the stack and with the people and taking those photos. It's only, like I said, these wide shots zoomed all the way out that the elements were all screwy. Like I said, I felt so awful about these. There's links on my profiles, Facebook, Instagram. I link to these, the best versions of these directly. When you print them at 4x6, you'll be hard pressed. You got to look close and to notice. So I put these up feeling so bad about it. I put these up for people to download for free in high resolution without a watermark and go get them printed at Walgreens or Walmart or whatever. So try to make something out of it. But like I said, thanks to the generosity and motivation and support of Aggies who want people to see Bonfire and experience it, a lot of Aggies stepped up and made sure that the entire rig got repaired, the camera and the lens. So this awful, gut-wrenching nightmare that we're looking at together right now, it's not going to happen on burn night because we've got a functioning Bonfire photo rig. So I will be there at burn with the newly restored, newly refurbished, newly fixed up rig, and we're going to get some great photos of burn night tomorrow, January 25th. Delayed. Not altogether a bad thing either. It was a great reminder for people. In the year that we're playing TU again, and people have the questions about and they have the opinions and the assumptions about what we're doing this for. Texas is back now. Bonfire. Something that people said that I know that they meant well, and I know that they were, they coming from a good place. But they'd say stuff like, "Oh, Texas is back now. Bonfire's, really going to mean a lot." And of course, the people who build Bonfire and who built Bonfire in the past, that's not where they stand. They know it's always meant a lot. It's always meant everything, and it doesn't matter who we're playing. And so I think a blessing from having this delay is that it really caused people to stop and okay, so we're not burning it for the game. And then when you recognize that, and then you realize that you're still motivated, you're still looking forward to it, it still means the world to you, that causes you necessarily to realize that, hey, wait a minute, if this still means a lot to me, then it must not be about Texas. So not the best outcome in the world, not anything that anybody would have chosen, but damned if it didn't have an effect and a good one. Also had some negative effects. We got to recognize that Bonfire's leadership had to guard that stack all through the holidays, including Christmas, including New Year's. That was not fun. Not great, but we can recognize and appreciate the good things that we got out of it. People were looking forward to a bonfire before the Texas game. They're still looking forward to a bonfire after the Texas game. It is clear as crystal that it doesn't have anything to do with the Texas game. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there. Thanks again to everybody. I can't thank y'all enough for helping get that camera repaired so we can be back out there taking the good shots. I'll be in the middle. I'll be in perimeter. We're going to have a great time. And, most importantly, we're going to burn the hell out of Bonfire and clear the field and have a place to build Bonfire 2025. Already in progress. Looking forward to it, Ags. It was an outstanding season. Proud of everybody. Burn the hell out of Bonfire. Gig 'em.